India, the world's fifth largest auto market, and 2021 has been an exceptional year for used car platforms. The growth is driven by India's startup companies, providing e-commerce for pre-owned vehicles. Introducing Cardekho, the newest member of India's Unicorn Club, an automotive titan founded in 2008 in the city of Jaipur. Meet Anurag Jain, the co-founder and chief operating officer, with a footprint in over 30 countries and 70-plus Indian cities. Cardekho has become the one-stop destination for buying certified pre-owned cars.
I'm Jasper Reed, and this is Billion Dollar Idea. We're delighted to be joined today by Anurag Jain, the co-founder of a huge business, including Cardekho. Welcome, Anurag, to the show.
Thanks, Jasper, for having me here.
We're delighted that you're joining us from the Pink City, Jaipur. Some years ago, Anurag, your grandfather suggested that there was a 10-minute auspicious time for you to start your business. And he seems to have been right. But tell me, as a founder of a business, how much of your business comes down to luck or karma or destiny?
So my grandfather was an astrologer, and he basically, I don't know how much you know about astrology, but there's like a patri where the stars, when you were kind of born or when your company was incorporated, those stars kind of determine the guidelines of how you will kind of shape up. It's kind of a belief tradition in India. And kind of links back to the karma theory as well. But honestly, I think hard work and perseverance and being at the right place at the right time, there's a lot of factors involved, and the stars may be there as a fate, but real thing is in the substance that you want to kind of pursue while chasing your dreams.
Maybe a bit of destiny and a lot of hard work, Anurag. But we'll get into the story in a second. But first of all, tell us, when you were growing up with your brother Amit, what were your childhood dreams?
Both of us, we are like 2 years apart, and we are the only sons of our parents, the two sons of our parents. And we basically belong to a very middle-class background, had aspirations of studying at the right institutes, going to the best colleges, and then basically trying to do something maybe in our careers professionally. And life had basically other plans. I mean, we are not like entrepreneurs purely by choice. I mean, it was like so we went to the best colleges in India, IIT Delhi. Both of us went there. And in fact, we are exactly similar in upbringing. We went to the same schools 2 years apart. We went to the same engineering college, and IITs are like tough to get entrance into. These are like the MITs and Stanfords of India. And post that, we both were in US for some time. We were working for companies there. In Texas, I was in Dallas. Amit was in Austin. Then we came back to Bangalore. We were working with some companies in Bangalore. So both of us were like happy in our comfortable jobs. And when you go to IIT, I think the country kind of lays open its doors for you in terms of opportunities. And we were doing very well in our professional jobs. But then in 2005 timeframe, our father got diagnosed with cancer. It was a late stage cancer. And father was the only son with 3 sisters. And India is kind of quite patriarchal in nature. So we basically had to kind of do a lot of thinking. He passed away after about 1.5 years of struggling with the disease. But at that point of time, before that, we had a lot of thoughts about doing something of our own. But I think the cushiony jobs, the high pay packets, we were never able to take that plunge, honestly. But this event, that kind of changed the course for us in terms of what we really wanted to do, and life is short kind of thing. And we kind of quit our jobs, came back to Jaipur to be with our grandparents. They were still alive at that point of time. Mother was there. We are a joint family. We were a joint family. We still are a joint family. And it was then that we thought that God has given us a gifted brain, 2 hands. We'll do something, make it work in Jaipur. And that's how the entrepreneurial journey started, out of purely family reasons, frankly.
Well, it's a great story and a great honour to the memory of your grandfather. But Anurag, both you and your brother, as you say, were fortunate to have excellent schooling, St Xavier's and IIT. Do you think you could have done what you've done without that privileged background?
I think as individuals, we are the same. But having said that, going into the premier institutes, the world has a very different view about your capabilities. I feel that if we were probably had gone to a different college, the opportunities that lay upon us, both in terms of professional jobs or entrepreneurship, I think the fraternity trusts you if you come from a better institute, and it's kind of unfair bias, I would may say, if I may add, because if you look at the, let's say, amount of funding money going into organizations in India and coming, and the mix of people from, let's say, IITs and IIMs, that's a huge, it's a disproportionate mix. It necessarily does not mean that talent only resides in these premier institutes, but there is let's say, a subconscious bias for these institutes. So it definitely helps in getting you perceived as a better individual.
Okay, so maybe a bit of luck, but as you say, you frankly make your own luck. Let's talk a little bit about the business, Anurag. So you've basically disrupted and transformed the personal mobility sector. You've built an enormous auto-based ecosystem, not only in India, but in multiple countries. When you look back to the start of this, was this an exercise in taking existing models, whether that was Auto Trader out of the UK or US equivalents, and changing it for India? Or do you feel it's an entirely new approach?
I think there are two parts to this. So one is that we are a technology company at heart first. When we started out, we had the auto portal Cardekho.com, which we are known as, but we also started a bunch of other initiatives, and a lot of them also failed, and Cardekho definitely clicked for us. And as a group, we are also kind of trying to do things in the insurance sector, in the fintech sector, mostly related to auto. And the personal mobility sector is kind of a huge space for India. In India, I think on an average, there's about, let's say, 15 or 20 cars per 1,000 people. And compare that to a developed economy, its number is close to 600, 700 number of cars per people. So there's a huge headroom for growth. So we realized in 2011-12 timeframe that this is, so we started Cardekho in 2007-8 timeframe, but it was only until about 3-4 years later down the line when we realized that this can be a single biggest opportunity that the company can pursue. So we focused all our energies into the build-up of the auto ecosystem, and the thought was not about cloning an auto trader, because what works for US or Europe, it necessarily does not mean that a direct thing would work here. Although there have been some inspirations from different people who have done what, but India is very different. India is actually 4 different countries bundled into one, and the demography of each of these target groups is very, very different. So you need to come up with a combined offering, cater to how cars are bought, how the trust factor is not there. So there's no car tax here, there's no KBB here. So there's lots of other challenges which India has, which are unique to India. It's not like a cloning of a model there. It's more about being in the auto sector and trying to drive how it works for India. And that has been, and a playbook has been building. It's not like a playbook which was cast in stone and then we are following it over the years. It kind of also evolved itself.
Okay, and talking about the customer, who's obviously at the heart of the offer, Anurag, I mean, you're operating out of a tier 2 city, which is unusual to a certain extent with all the founders that we interview. Tell us a little bit about how you and your brother have managed to get into the head of the Indian customer, whose obviously appetites and aspirations are changing enormously around the personal mobility sector. But how have you two personally thought about really getting under the skin of your customers?
If you think about it, cars is the second biggest purchase any Indian makes after a house. It's one of the single biggest ticket items for him from a, let's say, a social standpoint, and as well as his sense of self-belief that I have arrived standpoint. And if somebody, let's say, owns a smaller car, then his upgrade to a bigger car or a luxury car, that basically defines that he has arrived. So from that standpoint, I think the Indian consumer starts his life in a college. He basically is on a cycle, typically on a cycle, then he basically takes his first job, he buys a two-wheeler. From a two-wheeler, he maybe buys a used car, and then from a used car, he buys a new car, and then he upgrades his new car to a better, let's say, version. That's his typical life journey. And the average ownership of these vehicles during his life course are also kind of shrinking by the day, which basically is kind of evolving the market here. So if you look at the number of bikes sold, they are huge. I mean, almost the two-wheeler market is also as big as the cars market in terms of GMV. The numbers of bikes is sold is huge in India. So two-wheeler and four-wheeler both are a unique opportunity. The transaction money on cars is a lot more and advertising is a lot more. So cars is a lot more interesting market than bikes, but both are equally big opportunities, frankly. And we are running portals for both bikes and four-wheelers to kind of capture that mindset and also help the Indian consumer make the right choice.
Okay, and Anurag, you're obviously exposed to every element of the personal mobility sector, but talking very specifically about used cars, I mean, the used car salesman comes in for a bad rap around the world because people fundamentally don't trust used car salesmen. How have you thought about building trust in Cardekho and across the platform? Is it a million little things? Is it a brand image? Talk to us about how you've created trust, which is surely at the heart of this matter.
So you've got it bang on, Jasper. I think used car space is going to be won by people who can build trust in the consumers that the car they're buying from our used car mall, it's not a lemon. It's a car that we vouch by, and if something goes wrong with the car, we'll honor that warranty or we'll kind of fix that thing up. So we have kind of invested a lot into building up of used car retail outlets. It's like a huge car yards where you can find good quality cars. So we buy cars from our consumers and from dealers. We have a refurb center. So we refurb the car to make sure that the condition of the car is also known. It's not just the cosmetic thing, but also the small little things in the engine or the transmission, the powertrain. So there's a huge technical input using devices that we kind of try to minimize the human dependence on inspecting a car. And then post that, we kind of invest money into getting the car into a good shape where we can vouch for it. And then basically from the outlet, it gets sold out as a worthy enough car which can build trust. Over a period of time, this trust will basically be more, there's also a brand element here, but the word of mouth and the happy customer experience will go a long way in kind of building this business out for us.
Okay, and staying on the organisation and how you execute, Anurag, clearly innovation is at the heart of what you do. I mean, we've had various guests talk about their approach to innovation. So Dr. Sodhi, the MD of Amul, the dairy behemoth, every day conducts tastings in his office. That's the way they do innovation at Amul. How do you do innovation in your organisation?
So innovation is not just necessarily a one big disruptive way of doing things. Innovation is basically into each and every step of the, let's say, processes that we are running. So we kind of believe that innovation can happen at every step, at every role in the organization. So even a call center guy or a sales executive guy can give an idea that, in the app, if we have a quick calculator to kind of find the EMI of the car, right on the interface itself, it will help me save, let's say, for 3 minutes where I have to go somewhere, go to a different tab and find out things. So innovation happens at a very macro level also, and there's also innovation at the top level where you are trying to build, let's say, a different product offering altogether.
Okay, and staying on innovation, the huge buzz in the market globally at the moment is around the Metaverse and Web 3.0 and the development of virtual worlds. Do you see Cardekho and Bike Deco and College Deco and any other deco playing a part in the Metaverse?
So I think the Metaverse and Web 3.0, all these things are kind of going very fast, and there will be adoption curves globally. I believe that the Western countries where their access to hardware to enable such experiences is a lot better than India. And the consumers in India are kind of still, in terms of, let's say, ability to have those experiences, the spectrum of technology, the bandwidths, the hardware, India is still not there. So it will get there. So I believe that, so we have, for example, 360 degrees of our vehicles. We have virtual tours of the vehicle. We have both, you can experience the vehicle from inside and outside. You can experience the sound of the vehicle, but the experiences are still delivered through a, let's say, microphone on a camera, on a mobile phone or a laptop. But with little advanced devices, which once they kind of penetrate the Indian market, those experiences will start to make an influencing choice for people. I don't see that happening in the next couple of years, but maybe next 5 years, definitely yes.
Well, perhaps in 5 years we'll be doing our interview in the Metaverse, Anurag. But staying on more kind of tangible areas of innovation, electric. We had Sulaja Farodia on the show the other day. She's bet the farm on electric, as have several other of our guests. How do you think about electric? I mean, I woke up this morning in Delhi. The AQI was 468. Yes, there are 16 cars per 1,000 people, but we don't need more polluting cars, do we? Where do you stand on electric?
So I think electric is going to be, I think it will come faster than we anticipate, honestly. And I think the government is also really pushing on to change the fleet to electric. It has already been very, very aggressive on the transportation side of public transportation side. And I think the passenger cars are also becoming more and more affordable as we speak. Till 2 years back, there was not much choices, but now there are choices in the market. And electric vehicles, once they kind of start phasing out the older engines, petrol and diesel, they will definitely help in kind of reducing the carbon footprint emitted by these cities.
Okay, and how will GNR Soft and your various propositions, Cardekho, Bikedeco, contribute to that journey?
So one thing is clear, of course, that as a research platform, we are unbiased and we want to kind of offer the right information to our users, which is why basically we have the traffic that we're sitting on and the trust of the consumers. So across electric vehicles, the marketplace model will definitely be on the cards, where you could basically actually virtually book a car and get it delivered to your doorstep like a gadget. So those kind of things will start becoming more relevant, and the dealership model where the research component is kind of almost done. The guy will walk in with almost like a pre-decided mindset that these are two things that I want to kind of buy it from.
So just going back to, we've talked about the electrical revolution in India, we've touched upon it. If we take India as a whole, and you and your brother are icons of India 2.0, of Make in India broadly, where do you stand on the next 10 years in India? Are you bullish? Do you think India will break through into the levels of personal and household income that will power us all out towards a China future? Where do you stand on all of this?
I feel that economies and civilizations, all of these are very cyclical in nature. And nature itself is very cyclical. Look at the sun, moon, everything this kind of has a cycle. So from that standpoint, this is the decade for India, is what I believe. The last decade was of China. This decade is for India. I think India had been lagging behind in terms of innovation and competitiveness and the average well-being of people, the healthcare, all those sectors. But I think the overall growth of economy, the market size, the interest of investors, the innovation that's happening in the country, startups being a big thing, I think this decade is for India.
You operate in 30 different countries, and when you observe fellow entrepreneurs in those markets, do you feel confident that India produces world-beating entrepreneurs? Do you think India is any better at entrepreneurship than other countries in Southeast Asia, for example?
So I think India has a huge population. Unofficial censuses would be tagged to about 140 crores or something like that. And what that means is that to survive in India, to excel in India, you have to kind of be better than a lot more people, which basically itself gives a huge sense of competition, and the better ones basically are generally more gifted than the competition that you get elsewhere. So if you look at US also, a lot of these Fortune 500 companies, Indians have done a lot better than their, let's say, cross-country global counterparts in these organizations. Microsoft is headed by an Indian, Google is headed by an Indian. So there's a lot of talent coming out of India purely because it's a lot more populous country. So the bane is also a boon in a way.
We've talked a bit about the business. We could talk, Anurag, about your business. But let's talk a little bit about you. You're on the record of being interested in travel, in cars, which I guess is inevitable. What gets you going outside of work? How do you de-stress? How do you create balance in life?
I think work-life balance is very important for you to have let's say, a fresh mind and be kind of on top of your game every day. And for me, I think staying in the joint family, I have a young son about 8 years, and Amit also has twins about 7.5 years. So playing with those three boys gives immense joy. Teaching them football or basketball. So on the weekends, it kind of is the, let's say, the fun time for us where fathers kind of spend time with the boys. It is not as much as we would like it to be, but I think that's the single biggest joyous moment in the entire week, spending time with those three kids. And for de-stressing, I think we kind of also chill out. We have our drinks together. We enjoy our single malts occasionally, and we talk about different things. We talk about how kind of we have kind of progressed here, how we can need to build up from here. So there's a lot more work talk involved, but I think it's also kind of de-stressing when you're kind of chilling out.
Okay, and just talking about cars, I have to ask you this. I had Gautam Singhania on the show recently, who's a famous petrol head, and I asked him what his favourite car was, and of course he rattled off a list of 15 high-performance cars. But what's your favourite car?
So I'm enjoying my GLC right now, which I'm driving. So it's so I don't have like an aspirational car that I want to do let's say a Maybach or whatever, but I'm enjoying the car that I'm driving right now. GLC.
And do you see an obvious question to ask? I mean, as part of what your group business does, you have an extraordinarily popular YouTube channel. Do you think there are ways of parlaying that into other products? I mean, can you present the Top Gear of India or something like that? Be the Jeremy Clarkson of India? So we had kind of acquired a YouTube channel, Power Drift. It's the biggest channel for India in terms of video viewership for high performance, for producing quality content on cars. And they also kind of do production house. They do ads for other OEMs also. So it's kind of the thing in terms of delivering a video experience there. And we also do a lot more other things on our Zigwheels portal, which is what we acquired from Times of India Group. So we have in the last 6-7 years, Jasper acquired about 13-14 companies to kind of create an ecosystem of offerings for our auto consumers. And that has helped us immensely to kind of building trust across different factions on what we stand for. So that's important and video is kind of increasing every day as we speak, the importance of video. So being there on the right channels where consumers are consuming content is very important for us. Okay, well, we'll be excited to watch the development of the media side of your business. Anurag, as I say, we could go on and on. Let's wrap up the show by talking about legacy. I mean, you're hardly 40 years old, so it's a premature question. But when you're a bit further down the track and you're looking back at what you've done, what you've achieved, what is it you'd like to be able to say to your sons and nephews?
So if I kind of can proudly say to my son and the world that all of us working at Girnar and Cardekho changed how personal mobility works in India. We basically improved or enhanced the experiences of people who want to buy new cars or used cars or anything in the ecosystem. That's going to be my kind of takeaway from building up of this business. That I wanted to kind of improve personal mobility experiences in the Indian context, and I've done that.
Well, that's great, and we wish you well with that, Anurag. I noted in my mind as we were talking that I have 2 diesel cars in Delhi that are almost 10 years old. So I'm looking forward to becoming a customer of Cardekho myself. We wish you very well in this journey, Anurag. You and your brother Amit. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jasper, for having me here. It was a fun time talking to you.